Peter's being spicy today. I like spicy Peter. Let's go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Content Farm episode 17. It feels like we just recorded the last one. I don't know if it's just because of the stuff we're talking about, but like it feels like yesterday was the last one, but it's been a week already. Anyway, I've got the usual suspects. Peter got on a stick and Clyde, not your friend, both YouTube channels in description as usual.
Hello.
Howdy.
Yeah, we're just gonna be chilling and yapping again. Some stuff we might kind of revisit from last week, the censorship topic, as you can see by Peter's fucking strange background. Who is that? Who's that man?
It's Gabe.
It's Gabe. What? Wait, that's what Gabe looks like.
That is Sean?
Wait, that's what he looks like. Your chair's in the way.
Yeah, he's old now. People
He's
age. I hate to break it to you.
I knew he aged, but he looks like George Martin. He looks like Santa.
So just to make sure we're all on the same page, catch the audience up. Last week, one of the big issues in the world of gaming was this topic of censorship. A lot of games that feature sexual content just got pulled from Steam. Itch.io also pulled a lot of games as well, facing pressure from payment processors. So this was a big issue we talked about last week, and in our last episode, one of the things that I heard Peter and Sean express was this idea of like, where do we draw the line on censorship? And I like this question because it kind of forces us to think about it and ask ourselves where we draw the line. So I wanted to bring some games. I'm going to bring some hypothetical games, and I want to throw them at your brains. And I want to ask you, Sean and Peter, where you would draw the line.
To preface, I do not know any of the things you're about to say, so I feel like this puts me in a highly cancelable position, and I'm all for it. Anyway, continue.
All right, well. You're totally fine. That is actually a good point, which is I will just start by saying that content disclaimer. I'm not going to be describing anything graphic. I'll be talking about graphic concepts at a very high level, but there will be no graphic descriptions. But just for any viewers out there, if that offends you or upsets you, then feel free to click off or return at a later date. The goal is not to offend people. The goal is to talk about what we're seeing in the video game industry, which is this mass censorship wave happening right now, and censorship of these very specific topics, and to talk about it and think about it. And we as gamers, as people that are part of the community, react to it and ask ourselves how we feel about it. Because, if we as a community don't speak up and talk about how these things, affect us, then we're kind of complicit in them. We're kind of just like, co-signing on things that are happening. So I think it's our obligation to talk about them. So just content warning, there won't be anything extremely graphic described, but there will be mentions of violence and things like that, and involving kids and things like that, because we have to talk about these things in order to actually have a conversation. Disclaimer number 2 is actually for Sean and Peter. This one's for y'all. And it is that there are no right or wrong answers. And even though I'm going to throw some hypothetical or realistic games at y'all, yeah, exactly. Don't feel the need to weigh in in a certain direction. I'll give my opinion as well about these games, but really, I just want to know where y'all would draw the line and kind of what y'all view in terms of censorship and what's important in art and communication. So, no right answers, no wrong answers, and also for viewers, like, I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts. So if people want to leave a comment and let us know, I think that'd be interesting as well. Kind of make it a conversation. So, all right. So I'm going to get into some games, and I've tried to not concoct games that I think are hyper unrealistic. I'm trying to stick to ideas and concepts in games that I think are either already happening or are very likely to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. It's very easy to create like a straw man of a game that's super fictitious about like, just torturing babies or something. And that's, that's a really extreme, ridiculous example. I want to talk about things that I think are actually very likely to be mass market sold in the next 5 to 10 years, or are things that are potentially already might be there. Y'all might already think these are there. So I want to start with one of the most famous and most controversial video game franchises of all time. I want to start with Mortal Kombat. So my first not hypothetical game for y'all is Mortal Kombat 15. We're currently at Mortal Kombat 12, I think is the current iteration. But I want us to imagine that in the next 3 to 5 years, maybe 5 to 10 years, we will achieve photorealism in games. Okay, we will achieve a level of graphical fidelity that it will be nigh indistinguishable from a recording of a real human being. I want to start on violence because I think this is a place that has been a hot topic for games for a long time. But I want to ask you: would let's say hypothetically we achieve photorealism in games? Let's say Mortal Kombat 15 is photorealistic depictions of graphic violence, gore, fatalities, things like that. Would you censor it? Would you ban it? Would you throw an age warning on it? Does photorealism affect how you perceive video games, and what are your thoughts on this? I'm really curious. Sean, take it away.
I have thoughts. So, what you just described is a rated R movie, and those are not censored. So this is like right off the bat from what you just said. I feel like this really isn't problematic because it's a form of media that we already like interact with very frequently. Like they just get obviously they get the rated R, they get the 18 plus rating. As long as you do that, That's obviously you can make arguments for issues, but the fact is these things already kind of exist in just not in video game form yet, because like you said, we haven't reached photorealistic, like completely photorealistic graphics in most games yet. So what do you think about the movies aspect of it? Like do I sound crazy, or is that like...
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
That's a better explanation than I could come for it. That's literally already been done in movies, and like even from I'll say go back as far as the 70s. They've been doing ultra realistic practical effects that look indistinguishable. Oh well, at least sometimes they do look similar as the same thing, and they literally try to make it as realistic as possible. And like you said, there's already a rating system set up for it, and so it'd just be putting that to video games. And we've had stuff like the original Mortal Kombat was censored when it just had pixelated heart coming out of someone's chest was
really
considered violent, too violent for children or whatever. And so we've just been getting different flavors of that ever since then.
So Peter, if you could take modern Mortal Kombat and go back in time and show those concerned parents what modern Mortal Kombat looks like, it would blow their minds. It would absolutely be like, what? Like they like oh yeah, it would be a mind blow. I will push back a little bit, Sean. Like I like the comparison to film, and I think that is a really interesting angle. There is something about video games because they're interactive to me.
I literally just wrote that down on my notepad as you said. I said, "Is it different because it's interactive?" Question mark. Like the exact same words. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there is something that like we have to just acknowledge that like in a video game, the player is the one choosing to inflict that damage, or is the one choosing to do that harm, and it does strike me as a little morbid to have video games where you're inflicting photorealistic harm on hurt human beings. That does spook me out a little bit. Not like please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that means these games should be banned, but I definitely, if we do achieve photorealistic graphics where we're beating up other human beings or shooting other human beings in photorealistic, like really indistinguishable from like a phone recording, then I probably would age gate that. I'd probably try to find a way to. I would definitely try to find ways to keep that out of the hands of young kids. Like that definitely seems like traumatizing material to be like have a 10-year-old boot up, like walk into the PlayStation and boot up their dad's Mortal Kombat, and suddenly they're seeing extreme, really graphic violence. That does spook me a little bit. Just there's my initial thoughts.
Valid. I mean, I kind of have experience from that because even though the graphics were obviously nowhere near photorealistic, I was playing games that were too high age rating for me, way too young, and they definitely gave me a lot of like nightmares and made me scared of different things as I grew up as well because I was playing them way too young. So as much as we joke about like the parents buying your games for you and stuff, there's definitely like if you're really really young, there's definitely a reason those age ratings exist because they can kind of fuck you up sometimes. Like if you get caught off guard by something you weren't expecting to see when you're like 6 years old, it's genuinely shocking. Sorry, Peter, I saw you were about to say something. I just cut you off.
Oh well, I mean, I don't see any need to change the age ratings from the system we have now because already stuff is pretty close to realistic. Like, even if it was photorealistic, it wouldn't be that much different. Like, look what we have now, right? Like, how much more realistic could it look, really? And its answer is not that much. And even if we go back in time, I remember when Soldier of Fortune came out, and one of the big sells for it was whenever you like shot someone in their limb, that it blast off, and you'd see like bones sticking out and flesh hanging from the limb and all. It was just really gruesome, and like at that time we were like, oh my god, these graphics are so realistic. We'd probably watch it now and be like, oh man, that's so aged. But like every point in time, because when you're looking and like, oh geez, it's so horrible now. Like when Mortal Kombat started going into 3D and it started looking better, then people then were like, geez, it's so realistic now. And so there's that aspect to it. So I mean, as much as we really do have to protect children from seeing that kind of stuff, I don't see how we would have to change what we already have as far as the restrictions there are. And just all the same, it's going to be like when we were growing up and we weren't supposed to see the horror films that we saw, but we still saw them.
Yeah.
Like kids may very well get the same thing. They'll be playing games they shouldn't be playing and stuff like that. And really, ultimately, it's up to the parents to decide if that's something that they should be exposed to or not. So and yeah, it can definitely have an effect on kids and stuff if they see it. So there's a reason the ratings exist. But
do you think the ratings do enough to protect kids? Do you think should we? I mean, assuming we get to photorealistic Mortal Kombat ripping people's spines out, teeth falling out of their heads, tears streaming down their faces. Assuming we get there, which is probably inevitable.
I feel like we're almost already there. I mean, you've seen the latest Mortal Kombat where like it's just completely gory. Like it'll actually zoom in and you'll see like their bone structure breaking and their organs flying out of their body and stuff. Like it's pretty grotesque as it is. So like it said, the jump and gruesomeness wouldn't seem that much to me that it would really affect the rating or the impact really.
I think I agree on the rating. I'm curious, do you think that games need to go further in protecting kids? Like, do they need to actually do like a UK age verification for these kinds of extreme violent games? Or do you think
no, I think that's a complete overreach, because I think it should be in the parents to decide when their kids are ready for it and when they aren't. Which some parents may be more lenient than others. I remember, my parents were pretty lenient with what I could rent at the video store and stuff, and like I'm very thankful for it, because like I got to saw some awesome movies, man. And sure, I saw some some crazy scary movies that really gave me nightmares and stuff, but like I don't feel like it ruined me or anything. And if anything, it just it got me familiar with the fact that movies are just fake and none of this is real. And it's not something that you should really put too much thought into. It's just shock value and stuff. But I mean, there's some parents who just are really restrictive. I remember I went to a friend's house, and we went to one of his friends' houses, and he was talking about how when he watched the Superman movie, like the older ones, they'd have to fast forward it through all the fight scenes and stuff because they didn't like violence. And I was like, really?
Hilarious.
Wow.
It's like, yeah. And so I was like, okay. I mean, it's up to the parents, I guess. But personally, I feel like kids are more prepared than what we think. But like I said, it's ultimately up to the parents.
Also, quick disclaimer, because I didn't mention it at the outset. I really should have, and I apologize. None of the games we're talking about, we're not endorsing or not endorsing these ideas. We're just talking about the ideas. Just want to stress that for viewers, that we are not co-signing on Mortal Kombat or Grand Theft Auto or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure there are some of these games that we enjoy or don't enjoy, but Or as always, we're just talking about the concepts. So my apologies for the interruption, Peter. Just wanted to stress that. But yeah, I think that's some interesting ideas. And Sean, I really like your observation about rated R films and how that kind of content is already out there.
Yeah.
I want to move this into one. I want to stick in the violence vein for a moment, and I want to move this into a little more focused direction. So, obviously, one of the most famous video games of this generation, Grand Theft Auto 5. Everyone knows it. Almost everybody's played it. And for people who haven't played it, I'll give you a brief synopsis, or I'll give you a brief synopsis of the scene I want to discuss. There's an extremely graphic sequence in the game where one of the protagonists tortures a bad guy. You go through, and it's like a quick time event of you torturing the bad guy, of you ripping out fingernails or using blunt weapons like a hammer on his limbs. It is a graphic sequence, and it's a sequence that courted a lot of controversy when it originally came out. And I want to start there, just Grand Theft Auto 5's torture sequence. Just before I ratchet up where this scenario goes, thoughts on that, Sean and Peter? Any objections, or just totally par for the course, or do you treat it just like violence? Or I'm curious, sequences where the purpose of the scene is to inflict pain on a representation of a human.
If I may open discussion, GTA in general is really interesting in regard to any of these examples, because GTA is like, the tone of the whole game as a work of art is very non-serious. I think everyone would agree, and that's why, when we were talking about Ready or Not last week, there's people when people discussing that controversy, they're always like, oh, but look at GTA, look at Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk has naked people and like blowing up hundreds of people and like all this stuff, and I'm like, well, there's, as much as I disagree with the Ready or Not censorship, there's clearly a difference between something like GTA and Cyberpunk, where the games are very fictional, like very, very, very fictional, and then something like Ready or Not, which is Ready or Not is going out of its way to look as non-fiction as possible. Like that's Ready or Not's whole thing. And in terms of GTA, the whole game has like this. Isn't it Trevor who tortures the guy? Am I thinking of the right scene?
It's either Trevor. I think it is Trevor. I thought it was Michael originally, but I think you're right. I think it is Trevor. And
Trevor's I don't know how much this actually matters, so like shut me down. But Trevor's like such a comic relief, like a comedy relief character. Like, just him torturing a guy is very like par for the course for him. His whole character is like doing crazy shit all the time. He, like, when you first meet him, he's like banging someone in his trailer while watching TV. Like, it's ridiculous. The game is ridiculous. The whole theme of his, or like all of those kinds of scenes is like over the top ridiculousness. So for me, that takes the seriousness of the offense down. Maybe I'm completely wrong for that, but the tone of the game, I'm pretty sure in the torture scene, there's also a lot of like non-serious moments, like jokes and characters acknowledging how ridiculous this is, and characters being, like throwing around some humor in there as well. For me, this knocks it down. Anyone have thoughts on that? Am I completely off? I don't know. That's just I don't even remember the details of the scene. It's been a long time. Yeah.
Peter, do you know the scene we're talking about?
No.
Okay,
it's basically I didn't play like single player on 5.
Wow. There's like a sequence where Trevor needs information from some thug or something, and it's like it's very much like Sean described, which is like the guy's strapped down to a chair, and it's very much a quick time event of press X to rip out his fingernails, press Y to break his knees with a hammer. It's very much in that vein, and it's a scene that I remember people really lost their minds at when the game launched. Like a lot of these groups, the censorship groups, decried this as like endorsing this kind of violence, making this kind of violence appear lighthearted, and I personally, I agree. I think I'm inclined to agree with you, Sean. My verdict is that like it's meant to be a scene that isn't particularly realistic. It is played for laughs. But I do have to admit that there are variables here that if you turn the knobs, suddenly I start to feel very spooky. So for example, I'm just gonna take us up one level. If you are instead torturing a young woman, the scene gets pretty grim pretty quickly. I mean, this because you're torturing a guy and he's a masculine bad thug guy, it's fine. But I can easily imagine a universe where GTA 6 maybe takes this up a notch. They crank it up just a little bit, and suddenly you're torturing maybe a minority. Maybe you're torturing a member of the LGBTQ community. Maybe you're torturing a young woman, and it could be. I'm not saying that all of these things are equal. I'm saying that the context of them and the representations of them, I could find there could be a universe where I would feel spooky about playing it. I'm curious, Sean. I want to throw that at you because you have played the GTA 5 scene. If you change the victim to a woman, does that change it for you, or are you still just like totally like, oh no, it's totally fine to me?
Yes, that changing it to a woman does change things. I don't know what that says about me or what that means. That's just my off the hook knee jerk reaction to what you're saying. I think presenting like men as violently oppressing a woman in a game and then even playing that for laughs as well is quite that's touchy. I feel like that's sensitive. That's maybe not funny. That takes away the humor for me. I don't find that particularly funny. That gets a little bit more serious for me. That changes things. That's just my initial thoughts. Same for a minority, I suppose. Peter?
I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but it seems all the same no matter what race they are or sex they are. You know, it's I think the context that matters more than who they are or what they are is why the scene is in the game in the first place. Like, why is this scene exist? Why is it here? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to show how desperate the main character is to get this? Are they showing how terrible the person is that they won't divulge this information or that they deserve to be? You know, like are the devs trying to get shock value out of this? Are they trying to purposely disgust you, or are they just trying to reveal how horrible torture is? You know, there's so many different angles that it can come from it that it's really hard just to paint it with one brush. As terrible as torture is, there can be some extra angles to it, and there definitely can be something like you said, where the case where it's almost comical because of the character that we see doing it, you know, versus some game where it would just be thrown in completely as something to purposely, you know, gross you out or make you very unsettled, you know?
Yeah.
So I definitely think context matters. And it's so much more different than like a horror game, like purposely trying to make you feel uncomfortable with something, either as the character being tortured or torturing, versus like say a military game where, you know, a soldier is captured and they're being tortured, and it's more trying to show the world the horrors of torture and how terrible it is, as you know, a tool that's actively being used even today, you know.
Yeah. I guess what I was doing is I was directly translating the exact Trevor torturing, kind of not 100% serious. It's serious-ish, but you know, it's GTA. It's a scene in GTA. They're always a bit ridiculous. I think I was imagining that, but replaced with like a woman, and to me that feels off. That feels not as funny. That feels not very funny. That feels like, yeah, I get weird vibes off that. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was directly replacing, you know, that scenario in my head.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen it, there's probably clips of it on YouTube, and it is there's pretty gnarly moments, like the dude's screaming in the chair, going, let me go, and Trevor's like, I'm gonna get what I want out of you, and I could get it right now, but I'm gonna take my time and make it slow, and it's not a nice scene. Yeah, you don't want to be the dude in the chair in that scene.
You don't want to be on the wrong side of Trevor in general. He's a psychopath.
That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Trevor is a certified psychopath. And that scene, and to be clear, like that scene is not presenting Trevor in any kind of good light, I think. I think that scene is like, look at how unhinged this crazy guy is. Yeah. I will say one interesting thought that I didn't think about this, Peter, until you kind of spoke about this, but while I am on the same page with Sean about how the target, their gender and their defenselessness state does that does affect my internal yucky meter. One thing that I'm just now realizing from what you said, Peter, that I really like is that I do feel agnostic about the idea that these things are all happening to humans. And as a result, I would apply the same content warning at the front of the game, regardless of the gender that's being tortured. So if it's like a guy being tortured or a girl being tortured, I would still slap that game at the beginning of the game with a black screen that says, "Hey, fair warning, this game features depictions of human torture." I wouldn't say male torture or female torture. I would just say human torture or something like that. That does seem to be a weird thing to distinguish between I would never call out like torture of a minority or torture of a member of the LGBTQ community. That seems weird, but that is an agnostic warning that I'd personally put on any game that features torture or human misery like that. Interesting. I hadn't thought about that previously, but the way you put that, Peter, kind of put that in my head of like, oh yeah, even though I do feel internally different about like the yuckiness about how it's depicted, I think that the content warning would be universal for me on that front. But yeah. All right, so there we go. We've gone through graphic depictions of violence. We've gone through violence, and I've kind of tried to twist the knobs a little bit on women. The last area that I want to kind of on the topic of violence, and this is one where I'm sure I might be over worried here, but I might get accused of presenting something that's never going to happen, but I still think it's an interesting food for thought, which is depictions of violence towards children. This is a really difficult issue, and it's an issue that games are petrified of. I mean, every game, most modern games like Skyrim, Cyberpunk, they go to great lengths to not allow players to harm children. They go to great lengths to either make the children go away or despawn or just be immutable to damage. And that is something I wanted to throw at y'all, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Is that a line in your head? And if so, what would your reactions to that be? If there was if the next GTA, if it came out, next week, GTA 6 will not despawn children, and if you're running people over with cars or you're shooting people, children just might be bystanders in that. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this?
May I open again?
Yep.
I feel how I agree with what you just said about the age rating in regards to like that, obviously like people like, for example, if you would violence to women, violence to men, violence to LGBT, and how that's all those things are equal, like in terms of a rating anyway, not like in terms of feelings and morality, but perhaps in terms of rating. There's no need to change a rating for any of those things. I think for something like children, this changes completely. I think if violence to children is presented in any way, that's like a rating skyrocket or a significant disclaimer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Significant disclaimer. Like, this is one of the most extreme things you can do in a form of media, and it needs to be front, right, and center. I think that's where I stand on it. I can't even think of any examples where this is like very prevalent. There's the Ready or Not example. Sorry, that car was probably really loud. I'll restart what I was saying. The Ready or Not example, which was recently censored, was that there used to be a child having a drug overdose seizure in the game. It was removed, so obviously someone somewhere decided that was too much, whether it was inside the studio or outside the studio, I don't know. Another example I can think of, which is an interesting example because it's the complete opposite of tone, is has anyone played High on Life?
I know of it. I haven't played it, but I honestly want to. I want to play it.
Well, in High on Life, there is a gag.
I know it. I know what scene you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a gag of killing a child because there's a child in the game who walks in front of you. But when I say gag, don't take that the wrong way. It's not what it sounds like. There's a child who is really annoying, and I believe he won't let you pass him, and he's just like screaming at you, and he's mocking you. He's like, "You can't kill a kid. You can't kill a kid. You can't kill a kid." And I think he prevents you from passing, or at least he tries. And he's just like very loud and very obnoxious. And then the gun, because the whole gimmick of High on Life is that the gun and your weapons like speak to you. and your gun is like, right, okay, we can't kill a kid, but then over the time the gun's like, okay, I mean, maybe this one time, and then eventually you do shoot the kid, and the kid is in shock that he just kind of, he just falls over and dies, and yeah, so that's tonally the opposite, but that's just like so non-serious. Like I'm pretty sure the kid did like an alien with one eye. Like it's not a human.
Yeah.
It's not the human for a start.
Yeah,
it's so unserious that almost feels insignificant. That's how unserious it is. So that's another example.
And the graphics. Those graphics are very cartoony. It's not realistic,
stylized.
At all. I want going back to GTA 6 because I really want to hear you. I want to push your intuitions here, Sean. What let's say GTA 6 did. I don't expect this to be the case. I don't expect Rockstar to come out and say, we're going to let you run over children. I don't expect that, and I wouldn't want that. But I'm curious, Sean, what do you think the gaming world's reaction to that should be? Do you think we should continue the course that we have now, which is that we essentially we censor games that have children in them? We basically remove the kids from those situations. Should we continue censoring those situations? Should we ban that kind of content entirely from video games? Like what's your position, or what's your thoughts on this?
Oh my god, that's such a pressing question. I've got so many thoughts.
It's tough. It's a tough question. Yeah,
it's so tough because there's part of me that's like, if as long as it's treated with the utmost of care, should we ever censor anything? But there's also a part of me that's like, that is too much for anyone to even consider ever, like putting into like a game, like harm or death of, as you just stated. Oh god, especially in something like GTA, no way, never, because GTA has somewhat realistic graphics and it's a game about like extreme violence. I think the reaction would be so bad, and I think it would go down terribly, and I don't think I would like it. I think that's my opinion. I think I would consider that too much in GTA 6. I think it shouldn't even be on anyone's mind. It shouldn't be a thing that's programmed into the game or graphically designed into the game where people spend time making the animations and the ragdolls and shit. It's too morbid. It's too morbid. Peter,
do you think that should be a rule for the industry? I'd love to hear. Yeah, Peter, if you want to weigh in, go for it. Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. It's definitely terrible. But just like you pointed out, but you pointed out an exception, and I said, like it has its place. Like when you add like a comedy aspect to it, when you're literally making fun of the actual aspect, that it was fine. And as horrible as it was, the scene where you're talking about the girl in Ready or Not, like
it's treated with care.
It was treated, and it was purposefully there. It wasn't just there just because they got a kick out of it. Like it was part of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, and I know there's some horror games out there where the thing is like the scary thing is the little girl, right? And she'll creep along and she'll jump scare you, and she'll have blood coming from her eyes or whatever like that. So like there's these weird exceptions. Yeah. So like it's honest, like you can say on paper, violence to children is obviously not good, and yet even then there's these weird situations that we're like, oh, okay, but that's fine. So there is a little bit of gray area, but thankfully we don't have to worry about it because it's for the most part it's a solved problem, because so many games just literally prevent you from harming children.
Yeah.
Or they just don't have children in them at all.
Yeah.
So I don't really see this as a problem, currently or even in the future, just because it's something everyone's aware of, and like people treat people who treat other people who attack or assault children worse than murderers, right? Like you're just literally worse than a murderer if you do something like that, and rightly so. Unless you're president or something like that. But I mean, it's literally like so terrible that you do this. So like it's just unquestionable that we just don't go there.
Yeah.
You just don't go there. And then but like I said, there are weird spots where it's kind of okay. Like, oh, it's okay that it's a scary game, so the little girl is supposed to look like a corpse or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
That kind of goes back to like the you know how I mentioned before that games like Cyberpunk and GTA in terms of killing in terms of like the act of killing normal humans, it's kind of comedic enough that it doesn't seem that morbid. That's similar with like horror games and like that kind of what we the topic we're talking about. I don't want to keep saying too much because it's awful, but like in the tone and the vibe of a thing, it's that can really quite suddenly change the seriousness of the offense. And I think horror is a good example of that because creepy kids are a huge horror trope, like a huge horror trope, probably the biggest horror trope.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So there are definitely some edge cases like that where it seems like it technically is, um, so kind of against the normal, children and violence or grossness or blood, guts, all that, whatever. But another thing is animals. Like I'm someone who will, watch a movie and see like several dozen people die and it's no problem. But then, somebody kills someone's pet. I'm just like, dear God, like, how could you? Oh, that's so sick, like, and I'm just like viscerally upset at something like that. And so, like, it's kind of weird because, like, in some games, like Red Dead Redemption 2, you can just go out into the wild and just start, killing wildlife like you're hunting, which, it's hunting, you kill, a deer or a rabbit or whatever. You just go on the ground and get your Bowie knife and you skin it right there. And that's just how it was in the West,
I loved hunting in Kingdom Come 2 as well. Had a similar vibe to Red Dead 2.
And then but when that happens to someone's household pet or something, then it just has a whole different angle on it.
Yeah.
So again, context is very important, and it's as simple as just not having it in the game, right? I mean, because you'd have to add something, you'd have to like that. Whereas the stuff toward children, they already have models for people getting hurt and stuff. They're just turning it off for the children, which honestly seems like a pretty easy solution.
Yeah.
And whether they despawn or not, there's just so many easy ways to go about it that thankfully we don't have to worry about it. So
I think that's really optimistic of you, Peter. Like, I think we have this, like, the game as it exists right now, gaming has this unspoken agreement. We have this these really weird hacky solutions to get around this problem, but I do wonder. There's a cynical part of my brain, and I don't want this, but there is a cynical part of my brain that is wondering, will we see this become a problem in future games? And one thing we see a lot in anime is this trope of like this young character that's actually hundreds of years old, right? They're not really a child. They're really really old. They're an elf girl that's really old. I don't think we get away from this problem easily. I don't think we get away from this problem of age and representations of age as easily as just despawn characters of a certain age. I mean, I am, again, just to make my position very clear, I don't want games that contain depictions of violence towards children. I don't think that's a good thing, and I certainly would slap any game like that with an extreme, adults only warning, or even I might consider just outright censorship. But I do think that what the current solutions we have right now are very hacky, and these lines are very blurry. Like, even who decides whether High on Life's depiction of a game is funny and lighthearted, and society agrees that, okay, that's a lighthearted depiction of it. It's an alien child, that's fine, but the line isn't always that clear, and it's not always as straightforward as just, well, this is not realistic, so it's okay, and this is realistic, so it's not okay, and this person's really this age, so it's okay, and this person's not really this age, or they present as this age, then it's okay. I think your view is very optimistic, and I wish I shared in your optimism that this was not going to be a problem for the gaming industry. But there's a part of me that does worry that it will be an issue.
I think I agree with Peter. I think this is mostly solved. I think we don't run into this issue very much now outside of hypotheticals, and for the same reasons, I don't think we'll run into it much in the future. I think it's like you said, it's kind of unanimously agreed that we don't touch this stuff. Like, we can have kids in games, but like Peter said, they normally have all sorts of like physics and violence, like disabled for obvious reasons. And in regards to the whole like, oh, this character is 1,000 years old thing, yeah, that's a big trope. But I also think the implication is just as important. For example, if there was like a kid walking around in Kingdom Come 2 and he had like death physics enabled, but like, they were saying, oh, it's just a guy who looks like a kid, but he's like 40. I still think that the fact that the character model is quite clearly a kid would be enough for some people to be like, that's kind of a red flag. I don't know if that's making sense.
I would hope. I mean, I agree with you. I think I completely agree.
Obviously,
I think that
that probably wouldn't happen. That's just if that's a very random thing I just came up with. But yeah, I don't know. I think I really don't see this being much of an issue in the future. I think there's always gonna be the fringe cases, like the cases we mentioned, and they'll either be dealt with or they'll just be left to they'll just be accepted.
Well, I hope I'm a worrywart for no reason. But let's move into something that is more realistic and is more plausible.
Hold on. I got one or two more things to say about that.
Yes. Sorry, my apologies, Peter. Go for it. Let us in.
First of all, it's kind of funny that there already are some cases where children are in games and they're getting beat up just as much as any of the other characters, and a lot of that is fighting games. Like off the top of my head, I know it's Darkstalkers. It's got like a Red Riding Hood kind of character, and her whole joke is like she pulls like Uzis out of her picnic basket and stuff like that. The joke is that she's heavily armed, and like she lifts up her skirt and there's like machine guns pop out and stuff. It's part of a whole gag. But like, I know there's games like I don't know if League of Legends is one of them, where they literally have like little child characters, and like, just like any other characters, they take damage. When they die, they fall over, and stuff like that. So, and in cases like that, we're kind of normalized to that. And I know you're talking about more specifically like violence towards children, but it's kind of weird that there's already cases where the children characters are treated just like the adult characters.
I think they fit into the fringe case category though, because they're like the fighting games to an extent are like cartoony violence.
I think we're all three of us are very glad that this has become a norm in the gaming industry, that there is safety for children. Like, I think that is a good thing. We should not be promoting violence towards kids or celebrating violence towards kids. That is it's a good thing the industry has taken it upon themselves to self-censor in this way. Even if there are no laws prohibiting it, there are just some things that are probably not good to be putting in the heads of people. So I think we're all on the same page here. But I do want to move towards a topic that I think is much more realistic and is a problem that as we'll talk about, we are seeing already. But I want to get your intuitions on this in the world of gaming. So I'm moving away from violence now, and I want to move into ideological issues. Okay, so I'm moving away from controversial issues of violence to now presentations of, particular ideologies. And the reason that this one's coming up is YouTube just announced about a month ago they purged several thousand channels from YouTube that were very clearly spreading pro-Russia propaganda and anti-Ukrainian propaganda. And YouTube denounced this. They purged these thousands of channels, and they want to make the platform, a place where there's entertainment, but at the same time there's not misinformation of that kind of nature and that scale. So I want to ask this question about the world of gaming. I want to invite this into the world of gaming. How do you two feel about this in video games, about the concept of a video game promoting a particular political affiliation or a particular a war effort that maybe depicting a war that's ongoing in real life, or wading into these controversial issues? Do you think these are issues that should be kept away from video games, or do you think these are issues that are fair game for video games? And if so, where is the line between fact checking and not fact checking? So also another really big issue, another really heavy issue, but I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on where this stuff lives or shouldn't live in video games.
God, I have so much to say about all the stuff you just said. I mean, I could comment about the whole, you know, pro Russia stuff that you just talked about, but I want to get onto the actual question, which is about like how it affects games and stuff. I think that's really interesting. I think first of all, it's important to say that I think like expressing a political angle, whether I don't like it or whether most people don't like it or not, is fair game. I think that's always fine. You know, there's a lot of left-wing media out there and there's a lot of right-wing media out there. I consider myself lefty, but there's some right-wing media that I like not because of the right-wing stuff, but just because I think the media was cool. There's some examples of that. I don't think a game should be disregarded because it's taking a stance that like they believe in. I think how you, in a way that you mentioned there being a line, I think the line is what you just said. I think it's fact checking. I think it's misinformation. Obviously, I don't think it's a hot take to say that spreading misinformation about like factual events or factual occurrences in a game is okay. I think that's definitely one of the lines, like a line that has to be drawn in the sand.
I think we have to acknowledge though it's really hard to draw that line when like we have so many like there are video games about World War II going a different way, right? And people would say that's not, you know, that's just a historical interpretation of the facts, and it's a distortion of the facts. But I think this is another one of these topics that, at face value, it is very easy for us to sit here and say, yeah, obviously misinformation is bad, but in practice, I think that line gets harder to actually find sometimes. I think there would be cases where like I mean I haven't looked at these channels that were banned, but I have to imagine these channels that were part of this YouTube sweep were not all extreme, super on the nose, Russia good, Ukraine bad. I'm sure some of them were very nuanced in their approaches, and I think it's probably a harder thing to identify than we would imagine.
Oh, obviously,
but
yeah. It's so complicated.
Yeah, I think so too. Peter, what are your thoughts? I'm curious to hear, where do you weigh on this? Do you think games should separate from political ideas? Are you a part of this, or what? I guess what are your general thoughts?
Well, you talked about the channels that were removed due to propaganda, and you bridged that into should political views be in games. But I see that as two completely different things. Because you can have political views that aren't propaganda, and even though they're related, you can have two sides of an issue that can see things. I mean, you can have more than two sides of an issue that see a different thing, which is fine. But the line that you cross, as Sean said, is the misinformation. Once it goes from this is my opinion on this, and you bridge into this is a fact when it's not actually a fact, that's when it goes from a political view to propaganda. And propaganda, it just has no place. Whenever people leave like a negative comment on one of my videos or something like this, or not something like that, just in general, whenever people leave a negative comment or something like that, I just let it stay. You know, it's freedom of speech, whatever you have. You know, if people want to comment on it, whatever, not. I could care less. You're free to say whatever. But I remember I put a video out. Someone was having a contest where, or it wasn't a contest. It was some sort of a collage or something, some art submission, where you make a funny video comparing Putin to Hitler, you know. And so I made a submission for that, and I shared it on my channel because I thought it was kind of funny. And I got a bunch of like Russian propaganda posts and stuff talking about how, oh no, you know, like Putin isn't Hitler, you know, it's the Ukrainians are the Nazis. They're the one carrying out genocide, like really heavy propaganda ass stuff. I'm like, no, I'm deleting that. Fuck you. No, don't get that misinformation bullshit. Once you cross the line into bending reality, no, there's no place for that. Absolutely fine with removing that stuff. If you're talking about, you know, oh, should we have more capitalism? Should we have more socialism? Even in, you know, whatever, we have communism or anarchy or whatever the fuck, you know, it's fine. You know, we're discussing different angles to solve a problem. But when you're talking about, you know, oh, you know, the world is actually flat, or Tide eating,
One of my
washing
favorite
machine
topics.
Tide Pods, it's fine, go ahead and eat it, whenever you start actually, lying, and whether or not it's actually hurting people, I that's definitely a line that I am completely fine with, triggering a ban or a block or something. It's just there's no place for it,
Yeah.
especially with how widespread things are. And it's like they said, a lie can go around the world, but before the truth can get its shoes on, But there really is a danger to how quickly these things can spread. And so the earlier we can stop it, the better. And if we really want to have an honest discussion about politics or religion or anything, we have to have it with facts. The second we start bringing in falsities and lies and stuff, we're no longer having an honest conversation.
The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil, Mon Mothma on to season 2.
There we go. Thank you. Well said.
Let's go. I agree. I think intent is a huge factor here, and I completely agree. I think like the intent of the media and what it's trying to accomplish and its artistic value is very different. I mean, South Park, The Stick of Truth, has extremely political messages in that game. It has extremely religious messages in that game, but the intent of it is not to present or spread misinformation or convert people or not convert people. The intent is to be a satire and a parody. So I think the intention of the creators and what they're trying to accomplish is very important. I do think it is difficult, though. I think it's not easy. I think it's very easy to, to say, misinformation bad, truth good, and I agree with that. I am team truth, and I am team fight misinformation, but I do wonder about how difficult that actually is in practice, especially with media and art in general. But no, I think I agree with you, Peter. I think that the intention is a huge part of it. Any other shots on this? Any other thoughts on this one, Sean?
I wrote this down. You said it a while. You said it like a few minutes ago now, but I wanted to come back to it because I thought it was interesting. You mentioned how there's a lot of like alternate universe history games, or maybe not even just referring to games. There's a lot of alternate history media, and I guess there's a difference between alternate history in terms of just being alternate history for fun, but then like alternate history because I don't know, maybe there's some kind of motivation behind it, like, did the developer make this because they feel a certain way, or like, intent, going back to intent again. But I also just think that as long as alternate history media is acknowledged as alternate history, I don't think that falls under like misinformation, even if it's like a minor change. For example, this is not a minor change. This is incredibly drastic, but like the Wolfenstein games, obviously being like weird steampunk futuristic Nazis, which is great. I love those games, but that's an example of obviously alternate history, but in kind of an interesting way. Because I'm not 100% sure. Are you both familiar with Wolfenstein? Is the canon of Wolfenstein that like the Nazis were more successful than they were in real life?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an example of one that's like the story is actually favoring the fascists, but obviously it's so non-serious and it's so like obviously alternate fiction that it's obviously completely valid.
Yeah.
There's no issue there at all. Obviously, just thought that was interesting to bring up.
Well, that's the whole point of alternate history, is that you know what the original history is.
Yeah, it's not history. It's alternate.
So, yeah. So
Yeah.
The whole point of it is that it's not the correct history.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can see how different it is and how, things would change and whatnot. If you weren't familiar with the reality of it, it wouldn't have, the same punch. If you were some guy who locked himself in a basement when World War II came out, and then your first media when you came out, in the year 2000 was saying the Wolfenstein game and saying the Nazis won, you'd be like, oh my God, they won. Oh, what a terrible, But the thing is, everybody who plays this game knows the Nazis lost. They didn't rule the world, and so this is obviously a false, thing, and this is just kind of there for entertainment reasons and whatnot. So yeah, but Sean, you said you had something to say about the Russian propaganda
Oh,
stuff?
it's completely unrelated, and it's not even. I think I spoke to you about this like early days of the show, but I find it just like interesting and funny how YouTube for so long has taken such a large stance on not showing violence on YouTube, like you know, actual like blood and it like bodily harm and death on YouTube.
Mhm.
But as soon as these GoPro and drone footages of the Russia-Ukraine war came around, I can't scroll like the YouTube home on news page without seeing some men dying. Like not even
Jeez.
like not blurred.
Wow.
In some cases, not blurred, not censored in any way, just like full blood, like audio, death noises, people dying, just like going on Live Leak. It's like I'm going on Live Leak in some cases.
Jeez.
I just find that interesting because for one, it gives YouTube. It obviously implies an agenda from YouTube, which, you know, agenda that I agree with or not, it's not relevant. But it shows that they're willing to make like certain exceptions. But and also it's just interesting how you know they never used to allow anything even close to that kind of thing. So yeah, I just thought that was funny.
Dang. I thought my algorithm was warped. My algorithm is nothing but AI generated like animal videos. I get tons of
What?
AI generated like birds in nature, and people are like, "This is AI slop. This
It's
isn't real."
mainly
But I'll take that.
Yeah, it's mainly
Jeez.
if I click on the news section, which I believe is the same for everyone in region. So that's not like
Gotcha.
algorithm based. I think if other people click on news in the UK, they'll see like mainly the same thing as me. And a lot of like every day there's at least like one or two videos of like a drone explosion, because you know all the drones are cameraed, or just a combat POV, which are all very good now. Like we talked about last week or a couple of weeks ago, like they're all very good videos. It reminds me of when people used to make airsoft videos back in the day with the good GoPro setups, and they're treating it that they're like, "Oh, what's up, guys? Let's go to war!" Like for like legit YouTubers. I mean, like killing people.
Jeez.
Peter, I feel like you're dying to say something.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to disagree with you about
Oh shit!
role in this. Yeah,
I didn't imply any certain role to them, but go ahead.
Well, but you were insinuating that YouTube had a side to play and that they were almost allowing it, and I feel like it's more of such a challenge, that it's such a challenge to remove them, because just in general, every hour on YouTube there's like several million hours of footage being uploaded.
Jesus
It's
Christ.
just a mass volume of stuff on YouTube. They have to automate it. They have to automate the censoring. Otherwise, they have to rely on the users, you know. And when the users put it in, then they even automate that. If enough users report it, then it's just blocked. You know, once it hits a threshold, it's just blocked. And it's only getting unblocked when it's manually reviewed.
Yeah.
So one part of it is just the volume of stuff in general is just too hard. That's kind of how that what was it called, like ElsaGate or something like that, where like they had a bunch of children videos that were like really disturbing.
Oh,
in the kids section of YouTube.
Yeah,
remember that?
That was so weird.
Yeah,
You just reminded me of that memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it like gambling videos? What kind of videos were they?
Oh no. Okay, so
I haven't heard about this.
I don't know if you're familiar with there's a lot of slop children, low effort, videos,
millions
stuff.
of views,
and like I'm pretty sure you've at least be aware.
I know of that genre.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so like of that, there was I don't know if there was just certain users or it's just a certain tag, but like there was just videos like really disturbing stuff happening, like urinating and like people dying, and people getting pregnant or like just really fucked up stuff. I think the whole Elsa thing. I think the ElsaGate part of it was like Elsa was pregnant or something like that, or something. Just it was just really disturbing stuff that was labeled as for kids, and it got by for so long till someone brought it to light, and then the story blew up, and then YouTube went on to, because like their algorithm wasn't looking for it. It didn't know to look for it, or it didn't know how. But regardless, it was something that they had to add into the system. And I feel like this is something else. Like there's no point in time where we had so much footage from war, probably in the history of humanity until the Russian-Ukraine war. So there's just so much mass volume of it, and they just don't have any precedent. They don't know how to start to even begin looking at it. And for the most part, it just, like you said, Sean, it looks a lot like drone footage, from hobbyist drones or something like that.
Obvious, yeah. It looks like
And
it looks like legitimate.
yeah,
Fancy
and a lot of
setup.
the times they're dying, they're just a couple pixels on the screen, or it's just like a cloud of dust, and they're going from standing to laying over. Um, there's so many hard tells to know, like, at what point would an algorithm say this is someone dying, and this is, so it gets really, really shady there. So I mean, and I'm someone who really hates a lot of YouTube practices, like their copyright system, the way they treat their star channels versus the average. There's a lot of stuff to complain about YouTube that I will definitely agree with, but this is something I feel like it just slipped by their systems, and it's just so unique that they probably don't even know how to respond to it or how to prevent it, and so that's why I'm saying, I don't think it's as intentional on YouTube. I don't think they're siding with anyone on that.
I think, Peter, I want to ask. I want to make sure. I would imagine we're on the same page on this. I think we would all agree that that YouTube has some kind of responsibility to try to do something, to mitigate, gore and violence from appearing on their homepage. I think we would agree, though, that, like, if a channel is found uploading, this kind of extremely graphic content, and they are not disclosing that, that should be an offense that's bannable immediately with zero tolerance, right? I mean, I think we would agree that if your videos are depicting humans dying and you're not disclosing that, and you're just uploading that for the whole world to see, and you don't disclose that, I would imagine that should be a zero tolerance policy. That's how I feel. I mean, are you on the same page, or I'm curious, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like it's reasonable to have a disclaimer. Where I draw the line is like preventing this from being displayed at all, because as awful as it is to say that, yeah, I support uploading videos of war, it's like, the thing is, like, these videos need to exist, because they're I mean, they're historical in a sense, and as much as they are, like, in a majority, just shots of people dying and stuff like that, what's actually being captured is the atrocities that are happening in a war, and this is the record. Back thousands of years ago, you had oral records, and then during World War I, you had a lot of photographs. In World War II, film started coming out, and it captured the rawness, the horror of war, and it's something that it's not pleasant, and but it kind of needs to be recorded in a way, and in a way, it is this is Ukraine's evidence of the atrocities that are being committed on by Russia, and a lot of times you'll hear something like Russian. I remember when there was rumors about North Korean soldiers fighting for Russia, and of course Russia completely denied it. And then you see the raw drone footage of North Korean soldiers literally in combat with Ukrainian troops. Mm-hmm. This is almost evidence at some point, So as terrible as war footage is, it has a right to exist. I agree there should be a disclaimer on it. It should be age gated, no doubt.
Yeah,
but
no doubt.
If YouTube just didn't allow it, period. I mean, imagine if all the video sites did that. They just didn't allow this video. Where would it go? Where would it be stored? I feel like that would be a huge injustice just to say, because it's violent, it shouldn't be there, even though it is real and it is something that's documenting more than it is trying to elicit a response, like a gore video or whatever you call them, snuff videos or some shit like that,
Yeah,
right.
So that's how I feel about it. It's gruesome, but I mean, it's reality.
Agree.
Well, very interesting thoughts. Anything you want to add, Sean, before I take us into the third horrible nightmare dimension?
No, I agree. All good.
Good. All right, then the final. So we've gone through some violence scenarios. We've gone through this ideological propaganda, some scenarios there. The last area, and probably the most consequential for what's happening in gaming right now, is the conversation regarding around sexual content in games. It's obviously the biggest hot button issue right now. It's what games are getting ripped off of Steam for, ripped off of itch.io for, and what I think it's clear that where everyone draws their personal line is probably different. It probably varies from person to person, and what one culture or one person finds offensive or inoffensive, differs and varies by human being to human being. That question isn't so much of an interest to me. I don't know that we'll ever get to a uniform consensus on what is and isn't appropriate or taboo. But what is interesting to me, and I think is much more relevant for what's happening right now in gaming, is this conversation around how do we successfully protect people, or specifically young gamers, while simultaneously not deleting art or censoring the human experience. So that's what I would like this section to be around, is really what kinds of safeguards would you like to see in this space? Is censorship the best solution for this problem until we get to better solutions, like actual age gating, or is age gating even not the appropriate solution? I'd like to focus the section on what you think the ideal solutions for this problem would be, rather than where our particular taboo line is.
You want to start out, Sean?
Yeah, have you got anything? I'm racking my mind right now.
I'm just going to echo what I said before. I feel like this is something that should be determined by the parents. If the give the power to the parents, give them parental controls. Let them lock out certain ratings, certain if they don't want drugs or violence or gambling or sex or cursing, let them choose what games they have access to or not. There needs to be more powerful controls for the parents rather than allowing a blanket government thing to just say this is what we deem inappropriate, based on whatever age or whatnot.
So
Because
it sounds like you are in favor of having sexual content on, say, the Nintendo Switch eShop just behind an age gate.
Right. I think it has a right to exist, but it just like I said, it should be the parents that determine if or when the kid gets it. I mean, there's I think we have to respect. There's a lot of cultural differences in this, and I brought up Japan as one where as young as 12 or 13, as young as 13, they feel like it's appropriate for my 13-year-old to know to have access to sexual things because they are considered mature in our culture or whatever, And then there's other cultures like I know there's very strongly Christian areas where they don't think you should have any sort of exposure to sex until you're an adult who is married. And obviously there's goods and bads to that, but that's their right to do whatever. So I feel like when you just completely put up a wall, it doesn't address how these different cultures, how different countries, how different families might want to approach this. So the one size fits all doesn't take that into account, and it just ends up being a massive inconvenience for the people who are actually okay with it. I mean, like Sean over in the UK, you have the new verification thing for adult sites, and now even though you're an adult, you have to go through all these steps that you didn't have to before, and now it's just a massive inconvenience to you in the name of sheltering children, which honestly, if it's just as easy for them to get around it as you are, so it's questionable
Probably, yeah.
even how effective it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my stance on it.
Yeah, I think Peter hit
I'm
the
curious.
nail on the head. Really, I think it's I think age ratings do exist. I think there's a large part of it that the parents are responsible, are responsible for. I don't really see that changing going into the future. I think, like, kind of going back to what we said earlier, I think a lot of this is solved. I think a lot of it's solved, at least for the for the broad spectrum of things. There's always going to be fringe cases. There's always going to be exceptions, weird exceptions that have to be taken by case basis. But if you're talking about all censorship in general in regards to games, I think it's mostly solved. And I basically just agree with everything Peter just said. So, yeah,
the tools are there. We just need to use them.
Yeah, exactly.
There's already bodies that determine the age rating for games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know Europe has PEGI, right?
Yeah.
And then the US has its own system, and even within consoles, you have the parental controls and whatnot.
Yes.
I feel like that just needs to be more fleshed out. We need to, put it on all the consoles. Maybe have some law that all consoles have to have parental controls. They have to have some fine tuning as far as the types of material allowed, and that way it's like I said, then it's on a per use basis, and it's again in the parents' hands rather than the government using what we already have.
I think I violently disagree. I don't think of this as a solved problem. I think we are very likely to see extreme change in the next 5 to 10 years over the types of content that are allowed to be displayed on these platforms. I think we're going to see very different um, expectations for these platforms. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see the platforms themselves self-censor and just kind of become a safe zone or not become a safe zone. And I don't know that our current solutions are an effective solution, if I'm being honest. I think if they were, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, I was just going to ask. You said you expect the things to change. What do you expect to change specifically? Are you talking about the content?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the fact right now that Steam and Itch are under assault from payment processors and the content of those games, I don't think that battle just stops. I don't think our safeguards or our ratings stop there and everything is just like, okay, we've figured this problem out. I think it is very likely that this is going to continue to be a problem of lobbying, of content, preferences of these activist groups, of people debating what is and isn't allowed. And I think this comes down to a fundamental problem that age ratings aren't doing enough to protect kids. I actually disagree with that. I think I agree that a huge part of this responsibility does come down to the parents, but I also think there is some content that is so extreme, so graphic, it should never, under any circumstances, be put in front of a young child. Ever. No, even if their parent's okay with it. I think that's ridiculous. I think even if their parent wants to expose their child to something that graphic and that extreme, they shouldn't be allowed to. And I think that there should be consequences for parents who choose to harm their children in that way. That is my probably. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off literally mid sentence. I was just saying. I mean, technically, it is illegal to play a game under the age rating, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
I mean, yeah, that's so like if I go to, like, because I remember I used to try and do it all the time. I'd go to the shop and buy a game that was a 16. I know I didn't have like a parent with me. They'd have to refuse to serve me, and I'm pretty sure if you get caught doing that, is that not a crime? I'm not 100%
no,
sure.
Like,
it's not very. It's not enforceable. Yeah. Like, it's really not enforceable because who's going to come into your house and like watch your Xbox? Like, the police aren't looking through people's windows. So I think that's the key thing.
The act is illegal.
Yeah.
I didn't know the act was illegal. I thought that, like, if a parent, like, that it would be legal if a parent said, "Hey, I veto the age rating and I want my kid to play Dead or Alive beach volleyball," and the kid's very, very young, and it like even that's not a great example of an extreme game, but yeah, I think the technology here will change in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't think age ratings are the perfect solution that are going to protect kids. I think that these activist groups are extremely passionate. They're extremely determined to see change in these spaces. And I think given that payment processors are being pushed around, I think there's going to be change. I think there's going to have to be change. And I'm not rendering a verdict on whether or not I think age ratings are a good or bad thing. I think they are a good thing, and I think by and large that the control should sit with the parents. But I, given how much change we've seen just in the last 3 weeks, just one activist group getting one payment processor strong armed, and that's caused hundreds of games to get delisted, and it's caused this kind of backlash. I think there's a lot of potential in this space for change to happen, and for a lot of I think I don't think we're at the perfect solution yet, and I don't know what the perfect solution looks like. I sure wish I did. I'd be a freaking millionaire. I'd be like I'd be coding that solution, but I don't know that age ratings are doing enough. At least even if we, the three of us, agree age ratings are good enough, we can at least acknowledge there's clearly a very passionate, very angry group of people out there who disagree with us, right? There are people out there that go, they're not doing enough. We need to get these games ripped off these storefronts. We need to get any kind of prurient game ripped away right now. So I think this is a conversation that is on evolving with between gamers, like folks like us who are hardened to these topics and that trust parents to make right decisions, and people who don't feel that optimistic. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I wonder if the space will change in the next 5 to 10 years, and if so, how it changes. I really hope we don't go into the future of I just want to sit down to play GTA 7, and every time I boot up the game, I have to take a selfie. That would not be cool to have to take a selfie every time I want to play a video game. That would not be cool. I'm not advocating for that, but I can't anticipate what the future will look like on this front. So,
to clarify, sorry, it's very quick. I was just going to say, I think it's not actually illegal to play a game underage. I'm getting mixed results off Google combining AI and multiple sources. I think it's definitely.
It probably depends on the country.
It depends on the country. Probably depends on the state.
It's probably pretty vague.
It's 100% illegal to sell. Obviously, I think we know that.
Yeah.
You definitely can't do that. But in terms of being caught playing, I really don't think that's. I don't see anything to suggest that that's actually legally enforceable. So.
Yeah.
But
even if there was,
even if it was, it's not going to be enforced. No one's peeking through windows to see what games people play. Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
I think, I think you're talking about two completely separate issues here, which is the ways in which we can protect children from these kind of things and the controls we have to do so, versus what's happening with the censorship going on with Steam and the payment processors. In which case, like you said, a very vocal minority was able to push these payment processors to pressure them to get Steam to remove these games from the library. And I think a big part of that is just that we're talking about a cabal of sorts of payment processors that kind of own the space, and they use that influence to force their will upon companies, because otherwise you lose so much of a revenue source from not being able to support the top credit cards in the world, that they just have a power that you can't ignore. And that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing a party that is not involved with creating the games or with creating the laws for the games, nor with the parents who have the children. It's a large corporation whose only interest is the profits that they make, and they appease these people not because it's right, but because they want their company to be put in a better light. So and you say it's going that way, and I hope to hell it doesn't. I really hope we see how terrible this is, and we keep the pressure up on those companies, and we let them know that we're not going to settle for this, because if they do keep that up, then definitely they could have where do you draw the line with these payment processors and what they can and can't do? I remember there was a website. It was some far right website or something like that. And whether you're on the right or left, yeah, it's disturbing that these credit card companies didn't like the site, and so they refused. They just refused to allow their service to them, and they essentially killed off the site through their power because of what they were able to do. And you any company, large or small, just has to bend to their will. There's a few exceptions. I believe it was Pornhub, who actually got a lot of pressure from their payment processors, and instead of actually bending to their will, they just said, "Okay, well then we don't need you," and they switched over to cryptocurrencies now, and so they actually made that work, which isn't viable for a lot of other companies to do. So just the fact that we have to deal with that now, that the power of what we can and can't have available to us is made by a company that owns the payment systems itself, is very disturbing. And I hope to God it ends soon, because it's very dystopian. And they, they're obviously unelected, and they're not even any sort of experts in the fields of censorship or psychology or anything like that. Literally just a bunch of executives, who get to choose what is and isn't appropriate, which definitely doesn't seem like a viable answer to me. So I really hope that goes away.
I completely agree. I want to say one thing really quick, Peter. I agree. We're on the exact same page. You have my sword. I think we should continue to, as a community, we should continue to push for artistic expression and fighting for, artistic expression in the space of gaming. I do think something you said though cuts both ways, and that is like this idea that we can push back against this. I think this situation also cuts the other way, in the sense that like all of these fanatical cabal groups are seeing that one small group in Australia accomplished this huge thing. They accomplished getting all these games delisted. So I think it is a beacon for these kinds of purists, or people who are like this in this other capacity. So I hope that, optimistically, I hope that this is a situation where gaming and creativity and expression can prevail, and we can use the tools that exist and make better tools to protect young gamers. But I'm also worried. I'm also worried that like other groups around the world, not just in Australia or the US, but around the world, are going to go, "Whoa, this group in Australia was able to get all these games delisted. Let's lobby against these, these payment processors as well." I think this isn't just a one and done, it goes away. I think this has kicked open a hornet's nest for all sorts of issues and all sorts of agendas. And I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. I don't want to be right on this, but my cynical part of my brain worries that like as many gamers are currently emailing and expressing frustration with Visa right now, and the payment processors at Visa, there are equally, or if not more, impassioned lobbyist groups that are trying to get their political agenda or their religious agenda or their agenda on XYZ issue reflected in these games. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope that this is not a hornet's nest that's just been kicked, but there's a worried part of my brain that does think like, oh man, this could be the Wild West all over again for gaming censorship in the next 5-10 years. But we'll have to wait and see. Only time will tell. Smash cut to like 5 years later, all the games are gone on Steam. The only thing that's left is Mario. Like, I hope not. That's not what I want. I don't want that. I'm not advocating for that. But
the most unrealistic part of what you said is Mario on Steam.
That's funny. Peter's being spicy today. I like spicy Peter. Let's go. Well, that was all the fun stuff I wanted to throw at y'all. Capstone disclaimer. I think we all want good things in the gaming world for artistic expression, and we all want to protect young gamers. I think if anybody has questions about our positions, they're welcome to follow up or leave comments or things like that.
Absolutely, leave comments. Go crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. Let us know what you think.